I wanted to finish a rant here, and then I'll pick up your phone calls. And this, Jim, I'm going to ask for that Obama video again on trade. This is the point that I was making with this is not that President Obama ran on one thing and then governed another way. That's not at all unusual, and circumstances change and times change, and you can't. You can, I suppose, fault people for that. But it's that the clear popular sentiment. Hillary Clinton has now said that the TPP, which she has praised 54 times and she helped negotiate or helped manage the negotiations of as Secretary of State, that she no longer supports it. She said this after Bernie said that he's opposed to it. President Obama ran for president opposing free trade deals, as you will hear in just a moment. And the point that I want to make is that what they get and what they're willing to say out loud when they're running for office is that free trade deals benefit the banksters, free trade deals benefit the transnational corporations, free trade deals benefit the billionaires, free trade deals, and free trade in and of itself is a misnomer. I mean, this is very carefully managed trade. These so-called free trade deals, they screw workers in developed countries. They may help workers in some undeveloped countries, although ultimately that's not even the case. Look at what NAFTA did to Mexico. A large part of the, quote, immigration problem of people coming from Mexico into the United States looking for work over the last decade and a half has been the result of NAFTA. Because what NAFTA did is it dropped the barriers to trade among countries, and Mexico could no longer protect their corn farmers. And you had literally millions of Mexicans who lived on small farms, small subsistence farms, growing corn, and they would grow enough for them and their families, and they'd grow enough to take to the market and sell. And then when NAFTA was signed and Mexico was forced to drop their tariffs on imported corn, now American corn farmers who could grow much more efficiently than these inefficient small Mexican peasant farmers, basically, these big corporations were able to just flood the Mexican market with American corn. And they did. And in just the first couple of years, in 96, 97, 98, 99, the first couple of years after Bill Clinton signed NAFTA, with the enthusiastic push from the Republican Party, in just a few years after signing that, literally millions of Mexicans lost their farms. They lost their homes. They lost their land. And so... And say what? Oh, you're talking. Okay, and they ended up here looking for jobs. That was NAFTA. And then all these. I want to say Embarcadero. That's not it. What is it? Machiavello. It's not Machiavella. Whatever they're called. These Maquiadora factories, I think is the word. They like Ford Motor Company, Donald Trump likes to talk about. They're building a Ford factory just south of the border in Mexico, so they can make cars there with cheap labor and ship the cars up here. Is exactly what Ross Perot predicted, right? That giant sucking sound from the south. So anyhow, here's what President Obama had to say when he was running for president about and this is why I'm so opposed to these trade deals, and why I find. Last night on TV, I had Curtis Ellis on, who is, as conservative as you can get. I mean, this guy is like the Republican Party is too liberal for Curtis Ellis. And he and I absolutely agree on this topic. And we're on TV last night talking about, and his issue is, we're screwing the American workers and we're losing sovereignty. We're going to run out of time. Okay, here's the clip. Here's the clip. Here's President Obama.
We can't keep passing unfair trade deals like NAFTA that put special interests over workers' interests. And it's because of this long-standing commitment to working families that I will not sign any trade agreement as president that does not have protections for our environment and protections for American workers.
If trade agreements are written only with corporate profits and Wall Street in mind, and not with its possible effects on Main Street, then we're only seeing half of the equation, and we've got to take those into account.
But what I refuse to accept is that we have to sign trade deals like the South Korea agreement that are bad for American workers. What I oppose and what I will always oppose are trade deals that put the interests of Wall Street ahead of the interests of American workers. That's why I oppose NAFTA. That's why I voted against CAFTA. That's why it didn't make sense to normalize trade relations with China without asking more from China. I will oppose the Colombia Free Trade Agreement if George Bush is insistent on sending it to Congress, because the violence against unions in Colombia would make a mockery of the very labor protections that we've insisted be included in these kinds of agreements. You can trust me when I say that whenever trade deals we negotiate come to my desk, they are going to be good for American workers, that they'll have powerful labor and environmental protections, and that we will enforce those protections. These are the battles we should be fighting.
You scrap NAFTA, Senator Obama, or fix it?
I would immediately call the President of Mexico, the President of Canada, to try to amend NAFTA, because I think that we can get labor agreements in that agreement right now. And it should reflect the basic principle that our trade agreements should not just be good for Wall Street, it should also be good for Main Street. And the problem that we've had is that we've had corporate lobbyists oftentimes involved in negotiating these trade agreements, but the AFL-CIO hasn't been involved. Ordinary working people have not been involved. And we've got to make sure that our agreements are good for everybody, because globalization right now is creating winners and losers. But the problem is it's the same winners and the same losers each and every time.
Guess what? The TPP was negotiated entirely by corporate lobbyists and governmental representatives, and the AFL-CIO was blocked altogether. They were not allowed to come into the table. Environmental organizations not allowed to come to the table. Right.
You're listening to the Thom Hartmann Program. Call 202-536-2370.
This is why it's not enough just to elect a politician who says the right things. We need to hold them accountable through movement politics.
To watch more clips from our programs, hit the Watch More Videos button over here. And please be sure to hit the handy-dandy subscribe button so you'll always be up to date. Tag, you're it.